Okay, so now, and in the middle of some of these, there's some big heavy aspects. There's in this middle one, that's in line 2, there's 2 big aspects, square to Pluto and the conjunction of Mercury that happen within that. So there's 2 really intense peaks, but these phases are still going on anyways. There's challenges that come up that attract my ego soul attention. So line 1, there's 3 interpretations. There's really 4 or 5 takes on line 1, like different ways of interpreting. The first one is just looking at where it is numerologically. This is the first place of the 6, and it's moving in this more traditional I Ching way. One sits quietly, but is disturbed by little things. Nothing is said, nothing will be done. Okay, well, really, and the second one, holding together. This takes the line and sees the hexagram within the line and relates it. Holding together the majority rules. One must be mindful of what others need. Then there's the third one, which is based on the pentans. It relates to the zodiac and the pentans, how they're moving along. So one does not project. You don't see it here, but it's put down at the bottom of the page. Oops. Okay, it's put down on the bottom page down here, where you can see there's the zodiac, and here's place 1. It's 12 to 13 degrees Scorpio, Sag Pentan, and then it says the rulership is Mercury and Moon. So it means for the first half of this, it's Gemini, next half is Cancer. So it's at a sort of summer solstice within this theme. Okay, like on the sub level. So this shows it shows the technical side of it, and the interpretation. Oh yeah, that's the pentans. This is a technical consideration between the rules of I Ching. Broken or not place, inappropriate receptivity, yielding at the wrong time, no holding together, no correspondence. So this is all technical stuff. I'm not going to get into it. It adds another level you can go into to see the implications of these changes. But basically, this point of I'm sitting quiet, I'm not being disturbed by anything, nothing's being said, nothing's done. Really, I really wasn't accomplishing much. I was just going by and living day to day and adjusting. So when we look at this 1 year, let's see if I can make this a bit bigger. My level, let's put up to 100, see how well we see. Yeah, that's better, see it better. So I'm gonna go up to here, here it starts, line 1. Okay, it starts in July 12th, 65. 12 degrees Scorpio, hexagram 15, line 1, modesty line 1. The rest will come to it. We're just going to deal with this part now. So here's this for this year. I left home. So after the first year, I hitchhiked, went to Calgary, took a bus to Calgary, hitchhiked through the Rockies. The Rockies went down to hitchhiked down to the San Francisco and was involved with the folk music scene in San Francisco, hanging out there. And then I went down to LA, and I was in LA for a while, in Venice Beach, and then in Hollywood. Then came to Phoenix, Toronto, and then came back with my dad. I met my dad, he was in Phoenix, and we visited my sister in Calgary and drove home. So that was the first way. This you'll see these more in sub-themes, but right now this is all part of this whole first year. Then I came back, went to university, but in the university I was already into the folk music scene. I was hanging in a coffee shop. I was working there. I really wasn't focusing on the school. And I met this beautiful tall lady and her friends. And of course, I fell in love, but I really had no money, no resources, nothing to hold a relationship together with. So it came when I got heartbroken. So as that heartbreak came, so did my attitude of dealing with school. You know, it broke my point of why bother being here. But then in December, I went to Greenwich Village. Had a number of adventures, but I remember I was having coffee with a lady. I hadn't slept in a couple of days, and I fell asleep, and I ended up waking up with her in bed in the middle of Harlem, totally black environment, and it was very safe and very nice to me. But it was like it was the first time I'd ever been outside of my bubble. So you saw the things. Once it's quiet, it's not disturbed, but it's just, let's see, but it's disturbed by a little thing. Nothing is said, nothing will be done. Hold together majority rules. One must be mindful of what others need. One does not project. One says nothing. When not starting anything, nothing will fail. That was basically it. So then I went back to, then, okay, where we were, then, okay, so then I more or less played out the school year. I started writing poetry. I stayed home. I more or less quit college, but I finished the year. I only got 1 credit out of the 5. And then I left. When I got, I worked a little bit, and then I just took, I remember getting my paycheck, walking to the post office, walking down to the bus station. My paycheck for the week was $50. That's a lot. That was not a lot. It wasn't a big paycheck, but it was still something. I bought a $45 ticket as far as it would go. And then from then I had no way of getting back, so I had to keep going from there. So then I hitchhiked from then on. So that got me to the Kelowna and the Okanagan. But I went to the West Coast, went down California, and a lot of different experiences, good and bad. And then let's see, this is, yeah, so I met this lady, Jackie, who I really kind of, next lady I fell in love with. That was still in this line. And then I bought my first I Ching book. And this is, and then, what's wrong? I don't see the year. The month, the year's up a little. Okay, 1966, yeah. So then, and I met Swami Bhaktivedanta, the man who was, this is before the really Hare Krishna movement started. It was right at the beginning, but I met him. He touched me. His still influence still affects me to this day. So I met him at that point. And that was this end of this first line, of this first theme. Okay, so it's just life. Everybody's got their story. So I just moved this up so we're ready for the next point when we get to it. So then when it changes the line, we go to line 2. So as we go to line 2, okay, 6 in the second place. One holds back and does not move. Difficulties surface. Since one has no direct influence, one does not presume. Really, I held back from school. I just like go, and I went traveling, but all the places I never really was traveling. If I had to work, I worked to get some food. I just went on, but I really didn't. I didn't belong anywhere, but I wasn't attached to anything. I managed to get by okay. It was, a lot of people were somewhat receptive. Some people were receptive to that at those times. Someone breaks away and does their own thing. Let go. The way of the many will prevail. So that was like letting go of Montreal, letting go of East Coast, and traveling out west again. So then, sincere and calm, no one is diminished. In the midst of difficulties, one holds on to virtue. This is the foundation of integrity and the seeds of success. So in this whole one line, 13 to 14 degrees, I'll run into the square of Pluto, the sun square Pluto, and the sun conjunct Mercury. I'll run into 2 very intense aspects. I guess the line in this one line within this, we'll see it more as we go deeper, but this is beginning to see the vision. So the breaking away, doing nothing, knowing the direct influence, does not presume. In the midst of difficulties, I hold on to virtue. There's nothing else to hold on to, and not making my eyesight is not making matters worse. So I hitchhiked back to Venice, down to LA, Venice Beach. Usually traveled. Then I traveled back to Canada. This the fall. I came up and I got a job at the. I got a job at the University of Calgary, working in the bookstore, and then after a few months working there, I made some money. But really, I didn't want to stay there, not being a student, just working at the university. And that's what I was doing, and I got fed up with it, so I decided I would leave. By October, I left, and I went. Instead of going home to Montreal, I returned to San Francisco. So it's the first year that I stayed more than a year away from home, away from mom, away from family, and I'd let go of some of those things. I returned to San Francisco to try to find Jackie, who I left, who's the lady I kind of loved there, and I didn't find her. And then I hitchhiked down through Big Sur, and it was stranded. It was a lot of difficult. a guy who just escaped from jail and was picking up hitchhikers, and we were lucky to get away with our lives. It's a short version of it. Anyways, we did. And then we returned to San Francisco. I remember just different stories I got. I was just crashing at places, and I was crashing this one house that about 10 other people crashing. It was an empty house, a vacant, abandoned house. And we got arrested not because I was sleeping in the house, because there was one girl, 16-year-old girl, and her girl under 16 that was staying over there that night. I didn't know her, it was in some other part of the house. And she had some marijuana on her, and everybody got arrested in the house. So I was in jail with no money for about a week, I guess. And after a couple of days, I'm just sitting there being mad, meditating, just being frustrated, sitting still. And then I met there was someone else who was doing the same thing, and it turned out this guy was Charlie Manson. I didn't know it then. It took me 3 years before I realized this is 3 years before he became infamous, and he got arrested and all, and the murders happened way before that. But we had this big discussion, and I was really surprised. Like, he had done acid, which surprised me because he looked like a biker type. I would have thought he might have done speed or something, not acid. But anyways, we got into this big discussion what consciousness is, what life is, what meaning is. He believed that consciousness was power, and he would kill for it. I believe consciousness was power, but it comes by grace, not by force. We had 3 days there was nothing else. We're sitting in jail. We had this 3 days of really intense discussion back and forth around this. He's on one side, I'm on the other side. We didn't change sides, but it really was an intense discussion. And then we both got let out and we went our different ways, and that was the end of it. It wasn't until 3 years later when I saw who it was, I realized that was him. So in a way, it was pivotal. And that was just as my progressed sun was squaring my Pluto. I was in touch with the darkness, let's call it. So anyways, this was during this period. Then I went ahead. I left for LA again, and I was writing with a redhead Sue. She was a writer, and she was living in Beverly Hills, but I was living in LA and in North Hollywood. Anyways, we were writing, and then I was living with a band called The Seeds. One day, I lost all my poems, and when I lost the poems, which I always kept under my arm, I lost my identity because I had been writing, and that was at least the one thing I was doing that had meaning for me. So when I lost identity, then I left LA with another lady and 2 friends. We're in Puerto Vallarta. We're in Puerto Vallarta. This is before it was really a tourist area at all. Like, we had to drive through. The bus had to go through, or the car had to go through 2 rivers, drive through the rivers to get across the rivers to keep going on the road. They weren't big, huge rivers. They were maybe 6 inches or 6 or 8 inches deep. But we had to drive across, and the roads didn't go over them. But in that place, there was a bunch of hippies gathering in that place that were there, and the police arrested everyone with long hair. So they arrested about 18 people, and they brought everybody in the jail. And we were there for about 3 days. But on the 2nd day, they got everyone to line up. They lined everyone up, and they shaved everybody's head bald. And I had decided, well, I'm not gonna. They can shave my head. I'm not gonna move an inch to help them. They can do it, but they can drag me. They can come over. They can cut it. I'm not gonna fight it, but I'm not gonna move an inch to help. So I sat there meditating, and they freaked out. First, they came and tried to yell at me and get me to do it. Then, when they didn't, they came with a couple of guards, and the guards put their guns at me, at my head, and said, "Move." And I still just sat there, and they didn't shoot. How stupid. There's a Pluto Sun confrontation. And then they backed down there, and the next day they were glad to get rid of me. But I was the only one that got out of that prison with my long hair. So I thought it was a big achievement, but everyone else thought I must have been